you do not feel comfortable being recorded, make sure you turn your cameras off. But otherwise, the floor is yours, Lauren. I'm excited to learn from you today.
Hey, no problem. So, as we all signed in, we tried doing this interactive activity. So, now I want to show you what it looks like on the trainer in. I usually pull this up on my end just to make sure it's nice and ready. Let me make this a little larger for everybody today. And so today we actually chose this photo. You were able to interact with it. You were able to select a character that maybe you identified with this morning. So I love that it's not just me that's feeling like we're balancing on an impossible little tightrope here, but it looks like we've got some pretty good emotion. So this is just one example of several that I have for everybody today when it comes to making either our presentations, our meetings, or even trainings interactive, depending on what side that you like to do. So I just wanted to show you what this looks like. And this is WooClamp. This is, I'll kind of go over some more demos later today or dive in if people really have questions. But typically, if you do sign up, it is free up to a couple questions per round. But you can always sneak in a couple golden nuggets here, I like to say, in your presentations with WooClap. It's kind of fun. All right. Well, thank you for absolutely. Thanks, Marianne. All right, so just in case you have not met me, my name is Lauren Lakebrink. I am part of the G.R.I.T community. And first and foremost, Jennifer, thank you. Of course, you are amazing. I am so grateful to have you in my life. Thank you for this opportunity. And everybody here in the G.R.I.T community, thanks for giving me your time and ear. And I hope that you are able to leave this session with some, as I say, golden nuggets that you can take with you if you need. Uh, so as I'm doing the presentation today, just going over the agenda of what you can expect, I will kind of dive into who I am. I am part of the G.R.I.T chapter group of Deconstructing G.R.I.T. I follow up with that of what my expertise actually is, and then actually demoing some interactive presentation ideas. So not only will I show you what I do, but then I'm also going to interact with you and see if we can learn from that. So speaking of interaction, I have yet another website for us to try. So there is another website that's very similar to WooClap that's called Slido, if you have not heard of it. You can do both. You can sign on your desktop on slido.com. Now, here's the tricky part. This number in the middle, this number doesn't really matter. It's the passcode down here at the bottom that lets you into the Slido that I've created. So it's that E7PV easy. Ooh, well, the person with dyslexia, that one's tricky. Or you can go ahead and scan that QR code and sign in. So this is just kind of your sign in page. Whenever you have a sign in page, you can also insert your Slido into your PowerPoint, and the QR code and the information is still on the side. So now we're going to be able to see the interaction and still have the login information on the side. These can actually be put into PowerPoint slides or Google Slides, depending on which format you like to use. So, all right, I already see people participating and typing. I love it. I knew the G.R.I.T community would do a solid interaction here. So if you've had an amazing training, why was it amazing? So today we're looking at a word cloud. These are always amazing. These are also great to take screenshots and put them into your brag or kudos on your website, PowerPoints, whatever you might need. Inspiring. Learned something new, enthusiasm, passion, interaction, high energy, application to something I'm struggling with or excited about. Well, I don't know how I got this title, but I've been told I'm a wizard or the application queen. I don't know what it is. I love to learn about the applications around me that I have, how I can utilize them to the best of my ability. So if you do have any questions, please let me know and I'll try my best to answer. In fact, everybody here today that's joined us at the very end, we're going to draw a random name, and I'm more than happy to do a free session with you for 30 minutes to talk about maybe some applications or troubleshooting some ideas on some applications. So more to come there. Beautiful. All right. I love word clouds when you see how interactive that might be. So inspiring is right there in the middle, which is what this grit community is all about. So as we continue on, I I like to start my presentations with expectations as well. This kind of helps sets the precedent for potential interaction that you might be looking for inside of your presentations. So first and foremost, just like Jennifer said earlier today, if you can put your cameras on, please do. Obviously, we know life happens. Sometimes we're shoving like nachos in our mouth and we don't want anybody to see us eat. So I always say if you can, feel free. It always supports not only the facilitator, but it encourages other people in their presentations. Also, we are working with Zoom. And those, we have a lot of interactions that we can use inside of Zoom. So I always like to practice to make sure that everybody knows where these are. So at the very bottom of your Zoom, you should have a drop-down menu that gives you interactions. Oh, no problem. Like I said, only if you can. And don't forget, if you see those little three dots, you can always click on the three dots and you have all amazing interactions or emojis that you can select. So I'm going to challenge everybody today to go ahead and select an emoji that's calling to you today, this morning. I think yesterday I saw a dancing woman in there, cute little fireballs. I don't know. Go ahead. Whatever's floating your boat today. Pick an emoji. Oh, spaceships. Very nice. They're getting more and more festive. I love seeing them. It just kind of gives you a little boost of interaction there. So feel free to use those interactions throughout this presentation. And then, of course, we've been using the chat box. Just in case you have not played with the chat box, keep in mind that you can also like and give an emoji to anybody's individual comments. You can make your own comments, or you can even reply and quote somebody. So there's lots of options in here. Not to mention, as I was playing with Zoom last night, they let you edit everything before you even post it and link it. I would have to say I don't always have that option in WebEx. So that's a really nice feature there. Last but not least, feel free to ask any questions inside of the chat. If you are dying to ask a question as I'm presenting, please feel free to use that raised hand that's by the interactions. And Jennifer will keep an eye out for all of the questions inside of the chat and for any raised hands. I'm kind of a very go with the flow person, so I'm happy to answer any questions. Now, the reason I like to start with expectations is because when you want interaction, it's great to kind of start the precedents because you can also usually pull analytics after your presentation of how interactive somebody was, how many times they've done emojis or made a comment. And it can really just show you who's interactive and who isn't, depending on your audience. Not only that, but if you really want someone to speak up, I would highly encourage you to put in here, be prepared to be called on by name. So I do those for my trainings, but my trainings are mandatory at my job. So that's why I will do that. All right. So speaking of my job and myself, I promised I would introduce myself a little bit more. So I'll go ahead and do that. So again, I'm Lauren Lakebrink. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I have a QR code at the bottom left-hand side here. Feel free to connect. But I am born and raised in the St. Louis area, in fact, a little south of St. Louis. I was born, my maiden name is Comerford, if you're local and that means something to you. If not, my married name is Lauren Lakebrink. In fact, that very cute gentleman that you see there is my husband. His name is Lucian. He and I met in college. I went to SIUE, local here across the river in Illinois. And we met there. We're actually coming up on our 10-year wedding anniversary in September.
All right.
I'm very excited about that. And we are part of a DINK family. Just kind of curious if anybody knows what DINK stands for. Yeah, Amy, do you want to share what you know what it means?
It's dual income, no kids, but mine's dual income, no kids, but cat. So I don't know if that makes me dual income without kids.
Yeah, do we need to do another one? I don't know.
Yeah, NP plus C. No, I'm just kidding. But
I
yes.
love it. You know what, Amy? I am right there with you. I may not have cats, but I certainly have my beautiful little angel here. So I do have a fur baby. I love to say I don't have a two-legged child, but I certainly have a four-legged one. And her name is Aggie. She's a 2-year-old English bulldog. And I entered her into America's favorite pet last year, and she made it in the top 5. We did not win. We were so close. Technically top 3, but you know, I can only do so many brags. Also, I'm a very big water person. I'm a natural born Taurus, but I identify as a Pisces. I need to be in and around water all the time. We have beautiful rivers here in Missouri, plus you're not in the food chain, which is a huge plus. So we have 2 kayaks and a canoe. In fact, I'm going to my favorite river this weekend. It's called Jack's Fork. If you're familiar, if you're local and familiar with that, it's down in Eminence, Missouri. So I'm excited to go there. And then as far as my work life, I work at Worldwide Technology. It's a global company where the headquarters is based here in St. Louis. I'm a senior training specialist. This little snippet is my short claim to fame of being in one of their commercials that was published on YouTube. And it was when we were celebrating our 30 anniversary of being alive for our business. I've been there now for about I'm coming up on 9 years, actually, and I'm an individual contributor. I'm considered a Pisces, yep. I'm considered a subject matter expert. So I help assess training needs, I develop the content, deliver it, and I provide opportunities for either learning management content, long-term solutions, or analytics to prove solutions with our goals. So which really, I think I should probably be a program manager. That might be the easiest way to say it. Right now, currently, I'm working on leadership training, so more to come on that development. But, you know, outside of just being a trainer, I also work with women ERG group here at Worldwide, which really aligns with the passion that I have of supporting women supporting women. That's why I love the grit community so much. And so I was so fortunate that Jennifer selected me to present my story last year at the Grit Gala. That is also on Jennifer's Grit talk show on YouTube. That's published if you want to see it. And that's really where I came here. So as part of the Grit community, I am part of the Tenacity book of Deconstructing Grit. And my particular chapter is called Be Your Own Expert. So the reason I selected this particular chapter is because I always used to say I'm not really an expert in much but my own story, just because at the time I didn't feel like I was an expert in much but me. And that is simply just because my story is about growing up with a learning disability. At age 3, I was diagnosed. And believe it or not, I found my official diagnosis paper. So this is what it actually said. All it said was not mentally retarded. So I didn't have a lot to go off of when it came to that diagnosis. It wasn't until age 40 that I realized that I officially got diagnosed with ADHD and forms of dyslexia. So, I like to say I'm a victim of my times, which is the 80s, right? There wasn't a whole lot of support. There wasn't a whole lot of technology to support that. So my chapter is about how I became successful. I am a college graduate. I have a Bachelor of Science in Speech Communication. So my favorite joke is to say I BS'd my way out of college, honestly. And I break it down into 3 simple rules. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm going to be tying it into how we can make our presentations and meetings more interactive. So the way that I broke it down is LMC, or kind of my initials here. So it's definitely a big part of me. And the L stands for learn how you learn. The M is make mistakes. And the C is to clarify your communication. With these 3 steps, it really helped me escalate where I am at my current company, because I realized that I had to be extremely repetitive to learn information. I realized that I need audio and visual videos to reinforce that, and I need to practice it. And man, oh man, have I made a lot of mistakes, which we really don't need to go into today. But with mistakes, we learn lessons. I like to call those our silver linings. And then I was able to be my own advocate with my communication. And really, that's just supporting, what do I need to help be successful? That's how I view it. So as we take a look at these 3, I do like to start with everybody here, and we're going to continue with that Slido. So just in case your phone went to sleep, go ahead and wake it back up. If not, you can rescan that QR code, because, you know, we always like to identify, how do you learn? So go ahead, and once you have this active pull up, go ahead and put in here 1 or 2, maybe 3 ways of how you've been able to identify how you learn. If you haven't seen this before, sometimes we might see the top 2 or 3, visual, audio, reading, and writing. But sometimes we don't realize how many different ways there are to learn. And so this really ties into, how can you be interactive with your presentations? You can learn through seeing with your visuals and your videos, just voice recording instead of reading. If someone prefers lists, notes, or handouts, those are also very important if people like to journal. But we have learn by doing, learning by seeing others do, self-reflection with being solitary, and then logical by reasoning and systems, right? So if you really learn well with coding, or this logic works because I know exactly what the numbers mean, right? So everybody has a different way to learn. So let's take a look at our word cloud here. Visual, social. Yes, because we're not always just one thing, right? I'm several things. It really depends on what I'm learning, on what kind of process I need. Because if it's very complicated, I might need all of this. And it looks like visual is actually dominating. Okay, visual and social. Very good. Yes, very good. So there's a lot of opportunities here where we can insert different ways for activities. When we understand who our audience is and what we really want to get out of that presentation. Now, the next one is, this is an open comment. We're still in Slido, so hopefully that did move on inside of your phone. But I always like to ask, think of a mistake, and not like, you don't have to pour your heart out or anything, but, for example, man, oh man, am I a bad speller. And I had my bosses tell me all about it. So my mistake is that when I go too fast, I just simply don't proofread and I hit send. Have you ever sent an email and then all of a sudden you saw that one misspelled word and you're like, no? I know I have been. I've done it several times. So I like to call these our silver lining lessons. It's not fun to make mistakes. It's not fun. We beat ourselves up a little too much, but we usually take something from it. Okay. Boundaries. Oh my gosh. I still need this. So whoever said that, let's talk. I'm still working on it. Talk to my walking partner about it and figure out a better solution for the future. I really love that. Walking is also very powerful and healing. Love that. There was also a mistake I had made at one point where I just job hopped just to get out of one bad job, but unfortunately, it was another bad job, and I didn't take the time to understand what I was really looking for, um, and I happened to be there for quite a while, and so now, if for some reason I'm looking forward, I really take a look at what makes me happy and is not gonna put me back in that situation. So very good. Thank you for participating for those 2 that did. I also could just kind of want to open it up really quick if anybody wanted to share a little bit more about their um, mistake in, or just their lesson that they've been able to learn through mistakes, if we feel like sharing.
And Lauren, I'll share. I was the one that put boundaries up, and I was just going to share that one of my favorite things is when I say no, what do I say yes to? And just really making sure that when I make commitments and I'm 100% all in, and I'm not doing it out of a place of people pleaser or having poor boundaries. I've really come face to face with that over the past few years. And so I think to me, that's just really, it keeps my life in balance, keeps my stress down, and it keeps me from being overcommitted, which is something I'm working on every day. But I was just going to share that.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. I think we all struggle with that, and I feel like it's an endless struggle, you know? But thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I see here we have another one of pivoting. Beautiful. Yeah. How do we pivot?
I think it's like having those hard conversations, like Brene Brown always says, like lean in, notice when you need to pivot and when you've made a mistake, and just don't repeat that same mistake.
Oh my gosh, right?
Mhm.
If only we could have somebody that just smacks our hands away from anything that makes us want to do another same mistake of the same thing. But yes, I love Brene Brown. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
I have one. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Sometimes I think faster than I write. And because of that, I make mistakes. And it's like, oh my God, what did I put out there? So I've learned to kind of take a deep breath, lift it, and go back to it again, and then read it afresh. And hopefully spot the mistake before I post.
Yes. Oh, goodness. I 100% agree with you. That happens to me all the time. Let's just say I'm very grateful for Grammarly. It has saved me a lot. If you can get Grammarly, it's worth it. So, and thank you everybody for sharing because, when we take a look at what mistakes can really bring us, it can bring us self awareness, resilience. How do we just, learn from it and how do we move on? Just like Jennifer said, how do we make sure that we don't go back to that same mistake? And I see Joni here. Hi, Joni. Taking time to reflect and looking for patterns. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. A lot of my innovation and creativity really comes from a lot of things that irritate me as well. And, here's the thing with patience. I feel like I'm patient on this, one spectrum, and I completely lose my patience on a different spectrum. So that is a progress, I would have to say, but you do slowly gain it as you gain more knowledge. All right. So, what have I learned from this? As I took time to learn about myself and learn about certain patterns that I've taken, I think you've heard me say earlier, we're not just always one thing. This is what I've learned. I've been able to identify that I am an ambivert, intuitive empath. So when people used to ask me, are you introvert or are you extrovert? And I'm like, I don't know. I can go crazy to the wall, full of excitement, and then I can sleep for 4 days after that. So through all of my research and getting to know myself, I learned that I project energy and that I need time to recharge. And this is really important to get to know yourself as you navigate where you want to go in life. Being intuitive is, if you don't know how to use it very well with the intuitive empath, it can be a curse and a blessing. But I would have to say that I do think very fast. I think very high level. I love automations, but I'm also an emotional intuitive, which also means as an empath, I can also absorb other people's feelings or just be very in tuned. So this was a huge learning stepping stone for me as well, because learning my emotional intelligence was extremely important. And once I was able to maintain and find a healthy balance of getting myself back up out of a hole, it helps me know how much do I say yes and how much do I need to say no. And so those are just a few examples of how I've been able to identify going forward. All right, so how do we move forward with all of this, as I just mentioned? When we clarify our communication, it's really just being your own advocate and being really direct. So, for example, I used to really, well, this is somebody else's language, not mine, but I used to fluff my emails all the time, fluffy language. I don't know if anybody wants to give me an emoji or an raised hand if we say I'm sorry way too many times in the day. I already see some laughing and some head nods. So, yeah, sometimes, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Susan, I used to. Yeah. I'm so sorry I didn't respond to your email. I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. Oh, I'm sorry I was at lunch, right? Um, I have learned being direct. Maybe we don't need to say I'm sorry all the time. And instead, I'm really trying to do my best on saying, thank you for your patience. I'm just now getting to this, or I'm very behind. Thanks for reminding me, you know. And I'm starting to utilize this more. I'm not 100%, but that is what I've been able to do is as far as eliminating some of that fluff language. Um, And then another helpful tip as well, and this also includes inside of trainings, when someone asks a question, maybe you don't quite understand. This used to happen to me a lot where somebody would say something, I'm like, what? You know, I heard you, but I didn't understand you. And I think it took me a while to identify the difference between the two. So now, because I tell you what, this is a huge argument at home. My husband will say something and I'll be like, what? And finally, instead of saying what 5 times, what I've decided to do is I said, all I heard is you say, I don't know, the monkeys are on the roof. And he goes, no, I'm going to take the dogs for a walk. Okay, I have no idea how I heard monkeys on a roof, but thank you for clarifying. Where before I would get mad at myself, I'd yell, that emotional intelligence went out the door, and I would get angry. So this is a way to be your own advocate, is to help them understand what you're hearing versus what they said. And I also use this in a professional way. If someone gives me an assignment, I'll repeat it back to make sure that there is no communication gap between my brain and the translation, since I know I have dyslexia. So this is how I've been able to use this particular method. So I'm just going to pause really quick. Any questions so far? All right. Very good. All right. Now that we've gone over the grit chapter that I was able to produce inside of Tenacity, how do we tie this into presentations and events, if we so choose? So we can do the LMC method by a couple different ways. We can learn our audience. So just like we need to learn about ourselves, we also need to learn the audience. So for example, today, I knew I was meeting with the amazing Grit community on a Zoom call, so it's virtual only, at 10 a.m. Or 4 p.m. Scotland time. So I knew that most of you might have already had a cup of coffee or two, so you might be slightly awake. And well, the how, of course, is still through virtual. So through that, that's why I've been able to develop my presentation and make sure that I have my websites up I have all of my links ready to share. And that is part of using those chat groups. All right, I'm getting oh, there we go. I think I was getting a little bit of feedback. All right, so number 2, setting expectation and removing guessing. So if you notice at the very beginning, I put in a welcome message, because we all know when we give a buffer, 5-minute buffer time for people to sign in, there's sometimes a little bit of awkwardness or silence. I always like to say, embrace the silence when you need to and fill it when you don't. So I'll put in the message, I'll give instructions, I'll let you work through it. And I'll also put that inside of my slides. So then I will have something that people can read and something people can see. So now I'm meeting the visual and the textile learning. It's also really nice to have transitions from slide to slide so folks really know what is about to come, and that's why an agenda slide is so important. It not only lets them know what they're expecting to hear and see, but they also know what is coming next. And a transition just is really that beautiful segue into getting your point across. And sorry if you hear my dogs fighting, and guiding instructions, explaining and showing. So I don't know if anybody's done this before, but if you've done a game night and someone didn't tell you all the rules and you still lost, does anybody ever go, well, I didn't know that rule, so it doesn't really count? I don't know. We're a big gaming family, so that's how we do it. So we want to make sure that we're explaining it. So for example, you probably saw me, the slido.com or scan the QR code, even kind of troubleshooting through some of the sign-in issues, and just making sure that you practice. So here's one big tip that I like to give everybody. No matter what platform you're going to do a virtual meeting in, did you know that you can actually sign in to Zoom, Teams, or WebEx on an individual account, and you can look at all the settings that you need to. You can get to know it. You can start playing with the apps. You can start playing with your settings before you even have the meeting the next day. That's what actually I did last night, because I don't use Zoom during my work. But if you click schedule a meeting, it just schedules a meeting for you. It's just you. But this is one way where you can get comfortable with the platform. I know sometimes people will feel anxious when they need to share because they're not familiar with the platform. And so that is one way where you can kind of get ahead. So if you know you're going to have a Zoom meeting in a week, go ahead and sign into it and just get familiar with everything. Poke around. All right. All right. Next, making that mistakes with practice. To get comfortable with being interactive in your presentations, there's a few things that I want to make sure that I tell you about in case you do not know. So for those of you that might use Microsoft Office 365 and you have PowerPoint, when you utilize PowerPoint on the web version, there's something called the PowerPoint Coach. The PowerPoint Coach is a way for you to practice your presentation, and it will give you feedback in real time of how you're doing. So here's an example. You can rehearse, and if you say too many uhs, ums, if you talk too fast or too slow, it's gonna give you that real-time feedback. So for example, I only did this for 2 minutes so I could snapshot this, but I rehearsed about 13 slides in about 2 minutes, which might be a little bit fast. It says that I did have some filler words right here, so it will tell you which words you might be more prone to using. If you have too much repetitive language, it even tells you your average pace. So the coach is a really good way to rehearse if you're feeling a little nervous about it. If you don't have PowerPoint and you use Google Sheets, there's always that opportunity to record yourself in either Zoom, WebEx, or Teams meetings and then rewatch it. This is really going to help you see where you might be needing room to improve, where you're excelling, or maybe if you just need to add an extra slide or two, determining on how well you think it went. Rewatching yourself gives you the best feedback that you can. And it helps you get more comfortable when you're actually going to present so that you can concentrate more on the attendees instead of what you're about to say. And last but not least, test run it with a friend. Because anybody that doesn't know anything about what you're presenting will always have those follow-up questions to help identify communication gaps. I'm sorry, the dogs are fighting again. So other than that, practicing with the tools. This is my biggest teaching moment at work when people ask me how to use applications. If you see these three little dots here, these three little dots will always show you more settings options. It will show you all the ins and outs of how to actually work and be interactive with those presentations to get you comfortable using them. So when in doubt, if you see three dots, just click on it, just get nosy, and then you'll be able to learn a little bit more. All right. This is so, I know I mentioned I went to SIUE and I have a speech communication degree, but my minor is actually in theater and dance, which I do not use. So in my theater and dance, I love to say that presentations are like a dance, right? So when you're learning how to dance, right, you've got the beat, you've got the tone, and then if you need to learn the dance, you probably need to know how. So when you're actually giving instructions, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'll say, hey, my QR code is in the bottom left-hand corner. So sometimes you just really need to guide people because I might be familiar with my presentation, but maybe your eyes don't know where to go. And so when you clarify your communication as you're giving your presentation, you kind of want to give directionally instructions of where you want people to focus. It's just like a really smooth dance. Come up here. I've also been practicing with you to use interactions and try to keep you engaged by asking questions. So I've also been trying to just demonstrate how we're able to make interactive presentations. And then at the end, you can also do quizzes. So I'm going to go into a demo mode soon to kind of show you a few applications and tools that might help you out. And then I'll pause for some questions and answers. Okay. So before I do that, I am kind of curious. Our last Slido question here is, can you think of anything else that you've tried that also makes a presentation interactive? Because we all have amazing ideas. We all have tried something, maybe failed at something. So now is a really great time to share with everybody how you might have a different idea on how to make your presentations interactive.
Do breakout rooms and ask questions, or have content gathered around a topic where it evokes open-ended questions.
Yes, I love that.
I like the polls idea. I think it's interactive and everybody's responses can be anonymous, so people don't feel like they're putting themselves out there.
Yes, I love that too.
I've done a presentation on doing a mini marketing plan, and I've actually had them fill out a marketing plan while we've been going through the presentation. So they walk away with something.
I love that. Yes. Journaling as you go. Open-ended questions, polls. Thank you. Yes. Great ideas. Yes, the breakout teams are great. If you ever need to get comfortable with knowing how to do breakout rooms, there's actually great training videos, but at some point you do need one other person on your meeting to practice with it. And I would have to say that it gets a little bit to get used to, but you can have it automatically planned for you. You can have open rooms where people can join if they're just simply table topics. It really just kind of depends on how many people you have, but those are really great suggestions. Okay, so what I want to do now is I just want to show you an example of a few things that I've already been talking about. So I'm going to go into a demo mode and try to give you some tips and tricks of what I've already mentioned, what it looks like. All right. So I am inside I'm inside of PowerPoint, Microsoft Office, and I'm on the web browser, I believe. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So if you can see at the very top right-hand corner on the web browser, you have the drop-down menu in Present. And in Present, you can present in Teams, you can rehearse with Coach. So this is rehearsing with Coach. So this is what it's going to look like if you want to practice your presentation. It will say start rehearsing, and it will give you live feedback on how well you're doing. So this is a presentation that I might be giving at work when it comes to what exactly Worldwide does, just to let you know, they are a technology solution provider. So it will document if I'm saying words and it says try not to use ums. So right off the bat, this is how you can demo yourself and how you can practice. So if I exit out of this, right here, it gives my progress report on my rehearsal here. And you can rehearse again, and you can keep going. So just a little tip and trick there on how to practice and get comfortable. Next, there is also something called, here's the thing, sometimes I do like 2-hour meetings, and I won't necessarily stop sharing my screen, but I'll put up this this tool and application called the classroomscreen.com. I'll go ahead and put that link here in the chat. And you can do a free trial. You can just get started. When you get started, there's a few things here where you can do as screensavers. So just to kind of show you around a little bit, you can make all kinds of different backgrounds if you want. You can actually use this as a poll as well, which is very similar to Slido or WooClamp that we used earlier today. And there's all of these options down here, but this is what I mainly use it for right now, is I'll put up a timer of 7 minutes so we can take a break during our 2-hour sessions. And that way, if I training globally, I don't have to hurt my brain by saying, hey, what time is it over here? It's 4 p.m., right? So, hey, we're going to take a 7-minute break. Go ahead and turn off your camera, mute yourself. And when you hear the noise, we'll come back and get started. So again, I'm giving those instructions and I'm giving a visual for any sort of breaks. There's all kinds of things that you can do in here. Another great thing, though, that I want to point out, hang on, there is a randomizer. Oh my gosh, this is awesome, everybody. So if you press the little setting button here, you'll have your pop-out. And you can actually select names. You can put names inside of your list. You can choose your list or put names here. So if I just do Lauren, Amy, Jennifer, just as an example, continue. And nobody is talking, right? If we want to be prepared to be called on by name, I can literally just click the randomizer and say, all right, Lauren, you're up next. That way I'm not the bad guy when I'm picking on people's names. So this is one thing that you can do if you have a big crowd, or you also need more engagement by making sure that you select their name. So there's a couple options in here for you. What's really cool too is you can prep this. Now there is a free version where it doesn't save all of your items, but if you pay for it, it will save. all the way. It's very tiny, very bottom right-hand corner. You can do another screen, and you can prep more than one screen at a time. You can prep a lot of screens at a time. So that way you're prepared. You have links, you can have videos in here. You can even do your web camera if necessary. So this is a nice little tool to help keep things interactive and still use a screen without having to do like a PowerPoint slide or anything along that line. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Then we have WooClamp. So let me show you a little bit more about that. Now, the free version of WooClamp is a little limited. I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here so that you can see. It allows you to do 2 questions per each event, basically. But there is one thing that I've learned is that if you use a template on the free version, it gives you a lot more options, like maybe 4 or 5, and then you can just edit the questions. So this is what WooClamp looks like. You can start from scratch, or you can use templates. So fun questions with team building. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here right now. And it automatically, hold on, this is a little big. Here we go. I can use this template. And then right off the bat, I already have, 17 lines that I can edit just by using a template instead of just be stuck, getting stuck with 2 questions. So you can edit things here through edits. It allows you to type in your text, put in your rules. You can change the photos, place or remove. You can put a timer and do a fun quiz. You can even change the layout of the look. So again, a free service for interaction. When I go back, I'm going to cancel my editing there. And at the upper left-hand side is WooClamp. Anytime you click on the logo, it takes you back to the home page, and anything that you have started will usually be saved here. And you have your 3 little dots. That's always what I say, right? You can duplicate, you can share it, you can collaborate. So there's lots of options for you to do. And I'll show you what I did earlier today. The icebreaker was the one that we did at the very beginning of our meeting. How are you feeling today? I hit display. I'm going to do full screen. And then this is what I showed you earlier today. All right. So I know I shared a lot today. I was hoping it wasn't too much, but I hope it was a little bit helpful, because as we talk about making things interactive, hopefully you noticed that I was able to do the chat box, QR codes, questions in the chat box and interactions, a couple different online sites to use, great visuals. We didn't do breakout rooms today, but we definitely had some sharing, some demos, and some feedback. So these are all examples of how you can make your presentation or your meetings interactive. So I appreciate everybody's time. I think I've left 7 minutes for question and answer. I hope that's enough time. Anything inside the chat? All right. Also, one last thing, I did put some of these links together for everyone to take a look at. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can share this link. Please keep in mind this is from my work computer. So if you don't have access to it, go ahead and email me and I'll make sure to give you that actual link. But there's links to all the different things that I've talked about today. So I'm going to put that inside the chat. Oh, wow. Look at that AI note taker. That's pretty cool too. All right. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you, Amy. I appreciate it. Um, so I hope this is helpful. Please feel free to reach out to me through email, through LinkedIn, if you have any questions. Jennifer and I will work on pulling a random name and celebrate that person. I'll schedule a 30-minute meeting with you if you want more in-depth ideas, test run, anything with me. I'm happy to troubleshoot, brainstorm, anything along that line, and support you the best way that I can. I just really appreciate this opportunity, and I hope it was helpful. So thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you for your time and your talents, and it was exceptional. I learned so much, and I took so many notes. So, and if you
Good.
guys need a recap, I'm going to be putting this on our YouTube grid station, so you can watch it there as well. So thank you so much for your time, Lauren. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.